Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you guys? So welcome to the comparative management class. This is the very first class after lockdown, and this is how we shall be meeting in our class. What I will be doing is to record your class since we cannot have properly internet connection, so that we can talk about our class. So what I will be doing is to record these lectures for you and upload them on LMS or on YouTube for you people so that you can actually have access to my lectures. And the second most important thing is that how we shall be having queries. So as per the timetable shared by Madam Sanam, we shall be meeting in our every class as usual on time. I shall be having a 30 minutes question answer session with you people. What you are supposed to do to go through these recorded lectures of mine. I will record these lectures in 2 to 3 portions. Okay, so you will go through them, you will hear, listen them, and if you have any questions, then we shall be answering those questions in our those timetable questions, timetable question by Salam. Okay, moving forward. So this is the second part of socialist management that we have been studying in our class. In the first part, we talked about the Soviet Union, how socialism came into Russia and how Russia actually collapsed and how socialism was by and forth was changed to mixed economy. Moving forward, okay, so here is the hierarchical movement of Soviet socialist management. This is basically what it shows now. In the second part, what we are going to study is how Soviet Union has changed over the time. But despite of those changes, their political bureaucracy remained same. Their hierarchical structure of management has remained same till today. Okay, despite of many changes in their economic systems, but their management structure has remained same. So this is how we have been studying in the previous class. They have this political bureaucracy or bureaucratic politicians exist there, and these people actually have secretariats. Under these secretariats, they have some various different types of central committees. Each central committee is assigned with a different responsibilities. Say, for instance, as we discussed in our previous class, that they have a special central committee for economic plannings and all these things, or a special committee on supply of goods and services. Then under these central committees, they have council of ministers. These council of ministers are having the same, approximately same managerial or ministerial portfolios. जैसे मैंने आपको लास्ट क्लास में एग्जांपल दी थी, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस और मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ आपकी एनर्जी जो है वो तकरीबन सेम पोर्टफोलियोज हैं, बट हमारे यहाँ पाकिस्तान में there are two ministers. Therefore, if Imran Khan wants to establish a council of ministers, he can actually develop a council of ministers by combining these two ministries together. Okay, under these councils of ministers, they have sectoral branch ministers. Each branch ministry is responsible or answerable or accountable to council of ministers, and the responsibility is to actually look after the specialized policy committees. These committees are responsible for divisional or district level. Various different responsibilities are given within the special committees. These committees may be the price controlling committee. These committees may be related to the quality control. These qualities may be related with the collection of statistics, may be related to the population, may be related to the employed employees. So generally they have these smaller duties. And under these specialized state policy committees, they have factory enterprise directors. As I told you, the massive purpose of socialist management or socialism is to serve the people. Therefore, all these managerial position actually exist to serve the few, serve the countrymen living in Soviet Union. Okay, now coming to the main point, that is the Soviet managers, how these managers are actually appointed, what are the various specific things that actually people are the political bureaucracy look after before appointing them as heads or officers on these various different positions. So the very first thing is before appointing any Soviet manager, they have to look into the personal background of the candidate. Who is he? What is his qualification? What is his social status? Where does this person belongs to? What is his political affiliation or political opinion? Where he will fit into the nomenclature of political bureaucracy? What is his educational background, bureaucratic system, and what are the chances of his promotion in his overall career? Moving forward, okay, since we've been talking about promotions, so here we have a specific outline that actually talks about how promotions are given to the people working inside the Russia. Okay, so if you are a young Soviet engineer who goes into the industry, starts, if you are a young person, you will start at the bottom of the managerial ladder. Probably the very first position for you would be the chief of the production shop, a smaller shop inside a factory. You would be in charge for that specific production shop, or the design, or the maintenance department, whatever the department it is inside an enterprise. You would be responsible to head or supervise that enterprise department. Okay, if in that enterprise a new job opportunity occurs and you have the choice, you have two choices, whether you want to go into the production side or you want to go on the staff side. So there are two sides in the enterprise. Either you want to go on, you want to take a technical side or you want to take a managerial side. So if you want to go for production or managerial, sorry, if engineering side, then your job would be would lead to a chief engineering as a chief engineer of the entire enterprise. So you would be appointed as chief engineer. With the passage of time, obviously you won't get the promotions so smoothly, but if you opt for direct production, then the ultimate highest position for you in that enterprise will be the chief engineer. And if you opt for the if you opt for the managerial side, then there is a possibility that your ultimate goal or the position on which you will retire would be the directorship of an enterprise, or either career leads to the pinnacle of highest Soviet management position. So you have two options. Either you want to become an engineer. If you want to become an engineer, you will reach to the position of a chief engineer. And if you want to go opt for a general administration side, then there's a possibility that you may end up with a directorship of an enterprise, or that may lead to even much higher position in the management. Okay, Ji. Now here on this slide, we have been given some similarities and differences in personal backgrounds of Soviet and US managers. Now it's a comparison between Russia and US managers. In the very first point, it talks about that both groups come from similar classes, social classes. Mostly, most of these managers are the white collar employees. They have a very low middle class family backgrounds. Therefore, both in US and in Soviet Russia, these people are not very much well off. They belong to a middle class. The second point talks about that proportion of the college students is much higher in Soviet as compared to the US. US में आपको पढ़े लिखे लोग कम मिलेंगे as compared to the Russia. Russians are more college graduates. US people are more technical minded. They are not educated minded, and more of them had an engineering degree. Okay, this should be kept in mind that in Russia the engineering degrees are preferred much more than the managerial positions. Therefore, most of the graduates will have the engineering degrees. The third point, it talks about that the US managers was far less likely than Americans to have formal training. फॉर्मल ट्रेनिंग इनकी हाँ मैनेजमेंट या ह्यूमन रिलेशन से रिलेटेड, जिस तरह आपकी हम लोग ह्यूमन रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट आपको सिखाते हैं, मैनेजमेंट स्किल्स सिखाते हैं, साइकोलॉजी पढ़ाते हैं, इसी तरह की कोई भी ट्रेनिंग सोवियत मैनेजर्स की नहीं की जाती. However, on the other hand, they have this practice of young communist league activities. जिस तरह हमारे यहाँ कॉलेज में पॉलिटिकल एक्टिविटीज होती हैं, जिस तरह आपकी सिस्क है, आप प्रेसिडेंट बनते हो, इसी तरह सोवियत मैनेजर्स के यहाँ भी यंग कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी एक्टिविटीज होती है. जिस तरह आपका ये मॉडल यूनाइटेड नेशंस वाला कॉन्सेप्ट आपको बताया जाता है, दिखाया जाता है, इसी तरह इनके यहाँ भी यही चीज होती है. जबको इनका स्कूल लाइफ में ही पॉलिटिकल एक्टिविटीज किस तरह से होती हैं, लोगों को किस तरह से चलाना होता है, ये कॉलेज साइड पे जब होते हैं उसी वक्त सीख लेते हैं. ओके, रशियंस फोर्थ पॉइंट इज रशियंस फर्स्ट मेजर प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपीरियंस इन बिजनेस अफेयर्स when the student actually graduates from the college. Once you are in final year, you will have this practical experience of how to conduct business, how to meet with the people related to business. Therefore, this final phase of the final degree actually bridges the gap between your education and the practical world. Okay. The fifth point talks about the Russian managers had an earlier and larger dose of work experience directly in manufacturing functions. The very first job for you, if you are a Russian, if you are a student and you are going to become a manager in Russia, then your very first earlier and larger dose of work experience will come from the manufacturing side. You will be appointed somewhere in any enterprise on the production side. You will have the experience in production side, and then you might be given two choices, either to continue on the same production side or to opt for a managerial side. The sixth point talks about that Russian managers were more likely to have begun their career as low-level executives. OTG, even if you are given an option to go for general administration, again, you have to start at the bottom level of the executive levels, or the bottom level of the management. Whereas American managers are more likely to have started in staff or technical positions. Moving forward, management education, since we have been talking about practical trainings and education, so let's talk about the management education in Russia. Whether is there any scope for management, since we have been talking that Russia is more inclined towards technical side, more inclined towards engineering side, rather than on management, economics, and all these things, administrative things. So if you are actually appointed in any enterprise, in order to qualify for a promotion, you need to have 3 to 6 months courses in management, engineering, or economics in order to qualify for a promotion. The second point talks about the formal education for management was for the first time introduced in 1980s. Okay, before the collapse of socialism, they actually felt the need to introduce management education for the new generation. Therefore, you have been given 3 different top universities of Russia here. The Palakhandova Institute of National Economy, that is an elite undergraduate management school. Another school is Academy of National Economy, that is an elite graduate level management school. And the third institution is the Institute of Management of the Economy. So these are the top 3 management schools that actually work inside Russia after that started working in the delivering education related to the management after 1980s. Now there are so many other schools and universities that actually gave qualification to the new generations related to the management and administration. The business MBAs and BBAs, MS, all the degrees are offered these days in Russia. The Council of Ministers coordinated the management education for the business institutions. Education was prescriptive, as I have already told you what is descriptive and prescriptive education. Okay, they have much less analytical type of education, since as I told you, these people are more inclined towards engineering side, therefore they don't bother on the logical or psychological side or the behavioral side of the management decisions, focusing only on quantitative methods. So these people are technical mind, therefore they focus, the much focus is on technical methods applied to decision making and planning rather than behavioral dimensions of management. Moving forward, let's talk about the managerial roles and tasks. Okay, management has a very much limited autonomy. These managers don't have much authority to exercise a discretionary authority to make decisions. Since Russia is overall centralized economy, a command economy, therefore they have to get approvals before implementing or before taking any decisions. No need to worry of the capital raising. You don't have to worry if you need any kinds of fund to invest somewhere or to start a new project. If you want to start a new project, all you have to do is to go to the bureaucracy, political bureaucracy or government agencies and talk to them and tell them that you want to start a business and you want this much of money, and the government, if government thinks the idea is good and it's visible and the government thinks there is an advantage for the government in it, the government will help you by providing or generating funds for your business. No need for thinking of marketing strategies. Okay, you don't need to think about marketing strategies since overall government is responsible, and these products or services that you actually will provide will obviously be purchased by the government. Therefore you don't need to go for the marketing strategies. Your products will ultimately be sold. Okay, plus moreover, the government will give you a certain number that you have to produce this much of productivity or this much of units, and any if you think you want to produce more, then you have to get the approval from the government as well. No desire for entrepreneurial sense of developing new products, technology and markets, since government is there only to dictate you that you can produce such and such units, such and such products. Therefore ultimate authority lies with the government. Government will dictate you that whatever you are producing will or should come under the government defined things. However, there was need for creative negotiation approach for attaining production targets and sufficient resource allotment. You need to get some approvals in order to approach sustainable targets. If you want to do more business, if you want to go for producing more, you need to get approval from the management. Okay, I stop this video here. We shall be starting with a new part in a new video. For now, I guess it will be enough for you for the first half of the class. We shall meet in the second half of our class with the next 4 to 5 slides. Thank you very much.